If you have lived in the UK for years, you might think that your children automatically getting a British citizenship after they are born in the UK, and this is completely wrong assumption. Or you might think that your spouse will be eligible to apply for a British passport after you as a husband or wife get your British citizenship, but that is also completely wrong, and I found this extremely hard way. After living in the UK for almost 15 years, I was pretty sure that I understand the simple rules, but I found out that I'm not actually. So let me tell you my story so you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So I used to think that I could apply for a British passport for my son at any given time. So my son Simon was born in the UK a few years ago, and he has lived here ever since. So when he turned 6, I decided to apply for his British passport. But before applying, I spoke with a couple of my friends whose children already get a British passport, and I asked them how the whole procedure going and is it actually hard. They said like, no, it's you're literally only applying, and after a couple of weeks you get a passport. So I thought, why not me? Let's go. Let's do this. Let's apply for my Simon passport. So he will get a British passport because, you know, he was born in Britain, so that's gonna be easy. So I drove to the post office, and on a side note, I love how easy it is to sort the legal documents in the UK. You go to the post office, you get a form, infill the form, send it off. It's just like getting your driving license. Oh, it's definitely easier than cancelling your mobile contract when you have to call your mobile provider and just cancel the contract. That's never easy in the UK.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Good day, sir. My name is George.
But let's go back to the story. So I infill all the details. It was pretty simple, and they have even provided like a booklet on how correctly complete the form. And I believe the application fee was about 70 quid or something. So it wasn't expensive. The only problem I had was finding someone who can confirm my child identity, and that's because the person who would confirm your child identity has to be British, and it has to kind of work in a recognized profession. And there is like a whole list of the profession that they have to work, so they are eligible to confirm your child identity. But to my surprising, none of my friends would fit into the requirements, because most of my friends who's living in the UK were either non-British or they didn't work in a specific profession that's been recognized from the passport office. But after some effort, I found a specific person who can sign off the form for me, and I sent off the application and everyone was happy. Now we just have to wait. As soon as our British passport gonna arrive, we are all happy family with British passports. But that's not how it works. Because a few days later, I received an email requesting additional documents for the application. And the first thing I did was like call my friends and ask them like, how was your application? Have you received any kind of an email that you have to provide more details, more documents or something like that? And of course, they never had any problems with the application. It's just me. It's just me again. Somehow it always has to be me. Nothing ever goes smoothly with me. My friends and I always just joke that whatever I'm trying to sort out in my life, it's always have to be difficult. And it's just always me. I don't know why, but it's always this guy. Anyway, the email requested proof that me and my wife, we had been living in the UK for at least 5 consecutive years before our son was born. Before Simon was born, we had been living in the UK for 7 years. And that sounds like that should be enough of a proof that, you know, that's enough. We should be living here for 5 years. But there is a catch, there is a problem, because when we moved to the UK, we've been living in the UK for 2 years, and then we moved back to our country for a year. And after that year, we moved back to the UK again, and we lived here for like I believe 4 years. So in total it's 7 or 8 years. But there was this 1 year break And that was the problem. Because this 1 year break in our residency, we couldn't prove the requirement that was for a British citizenship, and that was consecutive 5 years of living and before our son was born. So that's two very important facts. That has to be consecutive 5 years, and it has to be before your son was born. So the passport office sent an email, and they called us to give them the proof for this specific 1 year, when we actually obviously couldn't prove it because we've been away from the country. But they didn't ask for any other proof for any specific period. They only asked for this specific 1 year. And I was even wondering how the hell they would know we had this 1 year break along the whole 15 years of living in the UK. And I assume that is something probably to do with a tax record. Perhaps the government just check whether you paid your tax consistently throughout your living in the UK, and if they see the gap, that means there is a possibility you weren't in the country. So of course we couldn't provide sufficient proof, so I sent an explanatory email. Explanatory? I just made a new word in English vocabulary. I explained our situation and how long we had been living in the UK. And after that, I had a 2 long phone conversation with the same lovely lady from the passport office, and shout out to this person who we spoke with. She was so nice and she was so helpful. But unfortunately, because we couldn't prove this 5 consecutive years before Simon's birth, the decision was final. Simon is not a British citizen, which was a massive surprise for us, because even though we have been living in the UK and he was born in the UK, he was living in the UK his entire life, he attended to school in here, he speaks English fluently, this application unfortunately didn't get through. This application was rejected. And this is to some degree frustrating, because the only reason my son cannot get a British passport is because we decided to spend 1 year abroad at the long 15 years of residency in the UK. But does this mean he will never be able to become a British citizen? No. However, another option is an expensive one, because we can apply for a British nationality through naturalisation, which would cost us around £1,200, £1,200, which is obviously not ideal, but that's not a problem, because I already had a plan in my head, and it's a good one. So while the whole situation was happening, I had been thinking about applying for a British citizenship through naturalisation by myself as well. So I've done my research and I realized that probably I can pass all the requirements and probably I am eligible, but it's not an easy process though. And here is few things you need to know about applying for a British citizenship through naturalisation. So the cost is around £1,600 for adults, and you must pass the Life in the UK test, which is around 1,152 questions around, and most of them are about the British history, and some of the questions are just bizarre. For example, what time the pubs open on Sunday? This is one of the questions. But anyway, you must also attend an English language assessment with an examiner, and you just tell her a story and she speak with you and she just rate your English. And while all this happening, the government is checking all your criminal record, financial record, and overall a background. And this whole process might take up to around 6 months. And if you are eligible, you pass everything, you got good requirements, then you are eligible to be a British citizenship and you can get your British citizenship ceremony, or however it's called. But here is why I even thought about applying in the first place. Because I assume that if I got a British citizenship, that my family, who was living with me in the UK for the same amount of time, will also automatically gain a eligibility to apply for a British passport. And this is completely wrong assumption. Even if you get a British citizenship, your children and your spouse do not automatically become a British citizen. They still have to go through the same naturalization process as you. But thankfully that I asked that lovely lady at the passport office about this before we get through the whole process, and I was already making plans in my head how quick I could complete my citizenship application, thinking would also help my family and cover my family with a British citizenship. But now I know that is not the truth. The British citizenship is not automatically for your spouse and your children, even if you become a British citizenship yourself. British citizen, not British citizenship. It's so many British citizenship and British citizen that I'm getting lost now. And let me clarify, I'm not saying that if your child was born in the UK, he or she doesn't become a British citizen. But I'm saying that you have to check if he or she is eligible for this title. Because as we can see, this is not as straightforward, at least it wasn't as straightforward for me as I thought. And after the whole situation and learning the hard way about the citizenship, I think it's a very good way from British government to make the applying a bit harder. And because British citizenship, becoming a citizen of any country shouldn't be easy, shouldn't be cheap, shouldn't be quick. And that's actually what makes it valuable, because you have to earn the title, earn the becoming the citizen of any given country. Hopefully I did clarify a couple things for you. So if you was wondering if what's the actually true is what's the crack, hopefully I helped you. So I will see you in the next video, and for now, stay safe and don't forget to subscribe.